Welcome to the TheDPost Sports Chat. I'm Drew Rubenstein here again with Justin Jackson, and the Mountaineers men's basketball team a couple days removed from 87-81 win against Texas Tech, snapped a 3-game losing streak. But what kind of sticks out about that game? Did we really learn anything about West Virginia from that ball game?
Well, we learned that they are indeed a better program than Texas Tech right now. I mean, it's the second time that they beat the Red Raiders, and went on the road and beat them in Lubbock. So Terry Henderson shot the ball very well, and I think it might be a start of something special for Terry. I've always kind of thought that he was a little bit better than what his stats are saying at the moment. Now, of course, he kind of started off the year with the shin injury and kind of got out of the gates a little slow and missed a couple of games early on. But I think he's going to continue to get better and improve. You know, he scored a career high 28 against Texas Tech, and not that he's going to go out and score 28 every night, but I think he'll be become a little bit more consistent than what he's been at different points of the season.
And that's interesting because, I mean, WVU relies so much on jump shots, and if he is able to get going, I mean, it just opens up so much more with Jawan, and it seems like Terry has the ability to drive to the basket a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Aaron Harris is kind of known more strictly as a shooter, and I'm not that Aaron can't penetrate, he can, but Terry can do a little bit more of that, and Terry also is a very good shooter and is known as a shooter. But, you know, if you can get Terry going and keep Aaron and Jawan staying consistently where they've been, you know, it certainly gives them that third guy that you have to go out and guard on the perimeter, and it kind of spaces the floor out a little bit, and it could give Jawan and Aaron a little bit more room to drive or shoot, and it would also give Terry a little bit more room because they obviously have to go out and guard Aaron and Jawan as well. So it would definitely spread the floor. If Terry can stay consistent and continue to hit shots, it would certainly help the WVU offense.
And that's what they're going to need kind of going down the stretch. We were discussing this a little bit earlier, and interested in what you think, how you would compare the Big 12 as it is this season, where right now it seems like most national folks seem to agree that the Big 12 has 7 NCAA tournament caliber teams.
Well.
And so it seems like you would agree with that. But, and how would you compare this to some of the Big East conferences that you covered in past years? Is this right up there with some of those better leagues?
I think top to bottom, this Big 12 team is probably, or the Big 12 league is probably better, maybe, than the Big East, simply because the Big East had so much more teams. And then you're talking about 16 as compared to 10. It's kind of hard to have 16 really good teams. A little bit easier to have 10, and certainly 7 have a chance at the NCAA, or at least have a chance at postseason. And the Big Ten, Texas Tech, West Virginia, and TCU are still fighting, but I think those 3 teams are improved from what they were last year. So I think it's really kind of hard and a little bit difficult to compare because, once again, the Big East had 16 teams, and one year I think what they had they consistently got 8, 9, 10 teams into the NCAA tournament, and consistently would get like 12 teams into postseason play. So there are some similarities. The Big East probably was the Big 12 is probably a little bit more top heavy, more so than what the Big East was.
And that's an interesting way. So let's maybe look at it from this perspective. WVU and the road that it has remaining, because you mentioned the Big East, you didn't always have to face the Louisvilles and the Syracuses twice. WVU is going to have to face Kansas twice. They still have to go on the road to Oklahoma State. They still have to play Iowa State 2 times. So does that make WVU's remaining schedule maybe even more difficult than anything they face in the Big East?
8 of their next 9 games coming up are against top 25 teams, and the one team that isn't ranked is Texas. And of course, Texas already smacked them earlier this year at the Coliseum, and you know, they were up 25 in that game at one point and won by 11. So you know, facing that grueling stretch, it's mentally and physically challenging. There's really not, under Huggins, hasn't been a stretch quite like this. In 2011, they faced 7 of 9 ranked teams in the Big East, and then also in 2009, they went a game of 6 of 8 against top 25 teams. Some of those teams ranked a little bit higher than what they'll face in the Big 12, but obviously this is going to be a very important stretch, though. It could make or break the season.
WVU's 15 in a row losses against ranked teams. they're going to have plenty of chances here. Is this team as close as what everybody's saying, and what do they need to do? What do they need to prove, I guess, over this grueling stretch? Because obviously nobody's expecting them to run the table or even go 500, but what do they need to prove that this program's headed in the right direction here?
The one problem against ranked teams that they'll have this year is that they'll have to, they're not going to really hold them down. They're not going to hold down a Kansas from scoring, and they're not going to hold a Baylor down from scoring. So they have to be able to go shot for shot with them. And, that wasn't really an option that they had last year. So they have improved against top 25. I mean, they do have that option against top 25 teams this year, which is something they didn't have last year. As far as knocking off a top 25 team, I mean, it's not easy. If you get hot, you might be able to score with an Oklahoma because Oklahoma is not one of the better defensive teams in the Big 12. If you catch a Baylor on an off night, obviously Texas Tech has already knocked off Baylor. TCU beat Kansas last year. So, I mean, there's always that.
Can happen.
Yeah, there's always that kind of hope that maybe you catch a team on a bad night, or you catch a team that maybe they're overlooking, or West Virginia on a night where you get Henderson and Staten and Harris, and they all score like 20 points each, and you start making some shots, and you maybe get something like that. I think that would probably be West Virginia's best option right now is just to get hot and hope you can go point for point with one of these teams coming up on the schedule.
All right, and last one, just looking at Saturday's game against Oklahoma State, WVU took the Cowboys down to the wire in Morgantown. The home court advantage, how much does that come into play here? How much more difficult is it going to be to go toe-to-toe in Stillwater?
From what I understand, Oklahoma State probably has one of the better home court advantages in the Big 12. I did not have a chance to go there last year, but I have seen, I've been to Kansas, and Kansas certainly is probably one of the better home courts that I've been to in the years that I've covered college basketball. And Oklahoma State, from what I understand, is right up there. Teams can feed off that, and certainly Oklahoma State. I still think Oklahoma State's one of the most talented teams in the league. I know Kansas has the better record right now at the moment in the league, and Kansas certainly has a win over Oklahoma State, but that was at Kansas. So Oklahoma State, I think, is probably a tough team to kind of start off with in this stretch of games. Kind of tough to think that West Virginia would go in there and play and beat Oklahoma State. But then, you look at the rest of the games in that stretch, again, in Oklahoma, they might be able to play with an Oklahoma, might be able to catch a Baylor. Maybe when you come back home, maybe even catch K-State at home, but Oklahoma State, very tough to play at home. That would be a tough one to get.
All right, well, you're headed to Oklahoma State and Baylor. Have safe travels. Thanks again for your time, Justin, and please continue to check TheDPost.com for the latest on the Mountaineers. Thanks for watching again.